We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
Tony. Tony's room is 20 feet by 12 feet by 8 feet. He has it set up wider than long, so it's 20 feet. That's where the screen is, because one of the 12-foot walls has a fireplace, and the other 12-foot wall has a door and a closet. So Tony's screen will go on one of the 20-foot walls, and he'll be sitting 9 feet from eyes to screen. He's legally blind, but he can still see well enough to appreciate good black levels and colors and a general good-looking image. I don't know what the definition of legal blindness is, apparently, because it seems like quite a lot of seeing.
Well, it means you're not allowed to drive.
I guess, right? Yeah, I suppose. And I have known quite a few people that are legally blind that totally aren't what you would consider to be somebody who was blind. So, yeah.
Right.
Larger is better for him, though, and resolution doesn't really matter too much. So he started thinking about short throw or ultra short throw 1080p projectors. I don't know how those two things line up.
Well, because 9-foot viewing distance and big image, right? So like we were saying...
Yeah, but the room is 12 feet long. I mean, that 12-foot room is plenty big enough for a regular projector.
But you remember what we've been talking about, the fellow who has a 12-foot room, and the biggest screen that he can create with a 12-foot room is a 100-inch image.
Yeah, but that was with his projector, though, right?
That was with that projector, but this is why he's thinking shorter throw, because he wants to go larger than 100 inches.
All right, so he cares more about the audio, so he'd like the projector to be quiet, and while his total budget is $8,500, he'd like to put as much of that towards audio as possible, skimping on the projector. Well, as soon as you start skimping, you usually start skimping on it being quiet as well. So 9-foot viewing distance, he was thinking he'd go with a 120-inch diagonal screen, give him roughly a 51-degree field of view. Does this seem reasonable? 51. Yeah, I mean, it's 20 inches.
Yeah.
And 120 inches, honestly, for most projectors from 10 to 12 feet, which is where your projector will end up if it's at the back of your room.
Well, not 12 feet, because the lens... the lens,
so,
there's no way.
Say 9 to 11 feet.
Yeah.
They can normally do 120 inches. Many of them can.
Many can, but not... I mean, most of the, like, Epsons can't. They have to be farther away from the screen in order to create 120. So...
My problem is, okay, I don't know how long my room is anymore. I think it's like, I don't know how far my screen is from my projector. My problem is I have a 92 inch. Is that what I have? 92
I believe that's what you got.
And my problem is getting the image small enough. Like, everything wants to project bigger than that. So,
but you have your projector all the way at the back of the room on a shelf, right?
But it's not, though, because there's a soffit that holds the AC duct, and it's in front of that by like 2 feet. So it's probably, I don't know how long my room is. I think it's probably 15 feet from the screen. Maybe 14 feet from the screen.
Now, I mean, essentially a 50-degree field of view, right? Now, for me, I would consider that a little bit larger than I would personally like. I like maybe a 45-degree field of view max, but he wants bigger because he's visually impaired to some degree. So bigger looks better to him, which is totally understandable. I don't know if that's big enough for you.
Right.
Just as an example, if you were to go to the next sort of standard size in screens, which is 135-inch diagonal, if you'd review that from 9 feet away, that would give you like a 57-degree field of view. Now, I would sort of explain that as go to your normal commercial movie theater and sit at about the halfway point, right?
Yeah.
The halfway point of the theater is going to be a little under a 50-degree field of view in most theaters.
Right.
If that's where you like to sit, is right about the middle of a commercial movie theater, you're like, that is where I like to sit, I would say the 120-inch screen from 9 feet makes a lot of sense. On the other hand, if you like to sit in like the front third of the theater, you know, like a lot of theaters sort of have the first rows of seats and they have an aisle. And yeah, if you like to sit in front of the aisle, and maybe you do, right? I don't know. If that's where you like to sit, then I would go bigger than 120, even from 9 feet away, because... you know, that's closer to what you would like in a commercial movie theater. So I don't know what's your preference, but hopefully that gives you some idea. If you like to sit behind the aisle in one of the big theaters, then 120 is probably fine. If you'd like to sit in front of the aisle, then 135 is probably the way to go.
All right, there you go. He found an in-focus IN3916 short throw projector being offered for $350. Holy crap, dude, that's cheap. Oops, I just clicked on something. Would that be a good choice, or should you be looking for a different projector? I'm going to look at it right now. I'm going to guess
it's not what I would recommend, unfortunately. I know the price is attractive.
Interactive projector. Ooh, that sounds like a business class.
Yeah, it's 1280 by 800 resolution.
Oh wow, that's not going to be great.
It's that 16 by 10
WXGA resolution. So there's that display.
It's kind of loud, like 35 decibels.
That's pretty loud.
It's got pretty crappy black levels by all accounts.
Yeah, one would think. This sounds like something. This is a business class projector. So basically,
this is meant to be, and it is definitely ultra. Well, it's hard to say. It throws a 120-inch image from 4.5 feet away, and there is no lens adjustment of any kind. There's no zoom. There's no focus. There's no lens shift. And you plop the projector down, and whatever you get is what you get. So installation would be a headache.
Right.
It doesn't have several of the things that you requested. I know the price is attractive, but I can't in good conscience say that this is the good choice.
All right, so we need something that he can set up from no further back. Let's be conservative here than 9 feet.
Right? Well, I would say 10.
10, okay.
10, you could definitely do 10 feet in this room.
Yeah, so let's say 10 feet. The lens to screen 10 feet.
Yeah.
He needs to have the ability to do 120 to 135 at a reasonable brightness and not too loud. And not too loud. And not too loud and low price. That's right.
Yeah.
What you got for him, Rob? What you got?
Well, the easy go-to is BenQ's HT2050, which we recommend frequently. Now, it's $750, right? So it's $400 more than the one he was looking at.
That's so cheap, though, seriously, for a projector.
But so much. 1080p resolution.
Right.
Good black levels. Not the best black levels ever, but hey, $750, okay? Better than the in-focuses. Better color. Lens, it's got some zoom. It's got some focus. It's got some lens shift even, right? So easier to set up. And 8 decibels quieter. 27 dB. That's significant, right? That's over twice as loud the in-focus is versus the BenQ. So it checks all the boxes, basically, right? Now, it can do the 120-inch for sure.
Okay.
But it'll create the 120-inch image. The closest it can be to the screen is 10 feet. So that'll work.
Right.
You can do the 120. But if you tried to go for the 135, it probably wouldn't work. Because for 135... the closest it can be is with its lens, 11 feet 4 inches, which would mean the whole projector and a little space at the back so you can plug things in would have to squeeze into 8 inches, and that isn't going to quite work. It's close.
Right. How big? The projector's probably bigger than that, right?
Yeah. So I worked it out basically in order to have at least 3 inches of space behind the projector so that you can plug things in. The largest screen you could go with this is 128 inches. Now, I don't think that's a standard size from anybody. So that means custom screen size, which means increasing the price.
But he can get his 120. He can get his 120.
He can get his 120 for sure. Now, BenQ makes an HT2150.
Okay.
Right, so there was the 2050 that I just mentioned. The 2150 is the short throw version of the 2050. All the specs are the same, except it has a short throw lens. So now that will create a 120-inch image from as close as 6 feet, lens to screen, or the 135-inch image from as close as 6'9" or as far as 8 feet.
That means that no matter which screen he goes with, it's going to be in front of his seating.
It's in front of his seating. But if it's ceiling mounted and if the lens is 8 feet and he's sitting 9 feet, it's essentially directly overhead. Right. Or it could be a little ways in front of you and create a 135. So the 2150 is more expensive. It's $1,000.
Right.
So if you want to do the 120-inch screen, get the 2050 because it's less expensive and it'll work with the lens 10 feet from the screen, which should be easy to do in your 12-foot room.
Yeah, it's gonna be behind you and a little less noticeable. If there's any light leakage.
But and it could vary. Size does matter here, right? Yeah. So if you're like, yep, for sure, I always sit in front of the aisle when I go to the movie theater. I'm like, get the 135, spend the extra money, get the 2150, because everything will work and you'll be happier. And ultimately, that's worth the $250.
Yeah.
If you're like, I'm super happy with this versus, I wish I could have gone a little bit larger.
We've gone from a $350 projector that he was looking at to a $1,000 projector.
The 350 was a little bit of a
Hail Mary.
bit of a pipe dream.
Yeah, everybody knew that.
Yeah.
He must have known that when he said it to us too.
If you're like, I just can't fathom $750, that is just too much. BenQ does have a model called the HT1070. It's $600. The lens is the same as the 2050s, so 120 inches from 10 feet away would work. You couldn't do 135 with the HT1070, but you're giving up several things. Doesn't have any lens shift anymore. So, but that's probably okay. That's just the up and down. It's dimmer, it's lower in contrast, it's louder, its black levels aren't as deep. So you're giving up a bunch of stuff to save $150. So I can't super get enthusiastic about that. But it's there. If you're just like, it has to be under this price, then that exists and it could work. And it's still better than the InFocus. That's everything I got.
All right. That sounds good, I suppose. I mean, unfortunately, dude, and I hate to say this happens all the time. We find these deals and we are very excited that, you know, there's this price out there for this thing. And then we look at it and we're like, this is really not what I'm going to be happy with.
Right.
So if you spent the $350 and you got this projector, I think chances are you're going to end up feeling like you threw that $350 away. And even if you can find a $500 projector somewhere down the road, you're ending up with spending $850 that you would have spent anyways, but now you're only getting a $500 projector out of it.
Right. Yeah.
So it might be better just to go ahead and do that. So that gives you somewhere around $775 or so to spend on the speakers and everything else. You know, let's say all in, you're going to be in for $1,000. If you get
projector and screen.
Projector and screen. You're going to be in for $1,000, maybe $1,100. So he said it was $8,500 worth of
$8,500 total. Yeah.
So that puts us down at 74, and you get a lot of speakers for 74.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get a lot.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you got about the mic.
No, I mean, if you already worked it out and you know that 120 is the size that you want to go for, I'm like, just get the HT2050. It's really nice. It checks all the boxes that you wanted, and it'll work with the lens 10 feet away. So if that was already figured out, then that's an easy one for me.
That's the answer. Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.